Okay guys, here's a fast way to beat the Godskin Noble, but it also works on other Godskin bosses. All you have to do is get the sleep sword, make them go to sleep, and then beat them up while they're passed out. It's ridiculously easy. The sword in question is called the Sword of Saint Trina, and it's basically the anti-Godskin sword. They're just very weak to this sword. This is a straight sword that requires 10 strength, 12 dex, and 14 intelligence to wield. So the demands are really not that high. Now you won't be doing a lot of damage with this sword, but what you want it for is its unique skill, which is Mists of Slumber. When you press LT to use this skill, it unleashes a purple cloud of sleep gas that makes some enemies instantly fall asleep. You can make multiple enemies fall asleep at the same time with this sword, and the effects of using the weapon skill actually coat your blade in sleep juice. So the next time you use a regular attack, it will actually have a higher chance of making enemies sleep. The catch here is that if you take damage, the effect on your sword disappears. You can tell whether the sleep effect is active by whether or not your sword is glowing purple. If it's not purple, just use the weapon skill again and then you'll get the sleep effect back. But remember to make sure you've got enough in your FP meter, because weapon skills do of course require FP to work. Like one time I was attacking people trying to work out why they weren't falling asleep, and it was because I just didn't have enough FP left. Anyway, if you want to get the Sword of Saint Trina, here's how you do that. It's in Caelid, and you will need a Stone Sword key for it, but if you're running low on Stone Sword keys and you want to know where to get some of those, click on the video above. I'll show you where to get loads of Stone Sword keys. Okay, so we've got the sword and now it's time to beat the boss. When the fight starts, immediately run towards Godskin and wait for an opening to use your weapon skill. Can make him sleep with either the weapon skill or a standard attack. So here he starts sleeping after just a standard attack. But notice that my sword is glowing purple when I use a standard attack because I have already used my weapon skill. Once he's sleeping, you've got options because enemies sleep for about a minute before they wake up. Here I go for a critical hit, but it doesn't actually do that much damage to him. As well as that, if you go for a critical hit, it locks other players out from doing damage. So you know what, I actually recommend just spamming standard attacks on them rather than doing critical attacks. If you do standard attacks, it means all players in the fight can be doing damage. So if there's 3 players in the fight, you're doing triple the amount of damage. So again, wait for an opening, dodge his attacks, then try and make him sleep again. Once he's out, attack him again. Now I use the Sword of Saint Trina to attack him, but if you wanted to do even more damage, you could switch to your weapon of choice and really go to town. So for instance, switch to Rivers of Blood or maybe the Anspur Rapier, and you'll do more damage than the Sword of Saint Trina. The Sword of Saint Trina here is really just for the sleep effect. Here's a bit more of the fight, and after this I'll show you a full list of enemies that are particularly susceptible to sleep. Right, so here are the enemies who succumb much faster to sleep. It's kind of a random list, like there's no common theme between all of these enemies, which is why it's helpful to have all this written down in the wiki. But there is one group of enemies who you can sleep easily, and they are the Godskins. So the Godskin Knight, Godskin Apostle, and Godskin Noble. For some reason, they're just all really weak to sleep. So if you're having trouble against any of these enemies, use the Sword of Saint Trina. One more weapon you can pick up as an alternative to the Sword of Saint Trina is Saint Trina's Torch. This is better for Faith players as it doesn't require any intelligence to use. For Saint Trina's Torch, you'll need 10 strength, 10 dex, and 14 faith. No worries if you have 0 intelligence, you can pick up this torch and still make enemies go to sleep. This torch has a unique skill called Fires of Slumber, which makes it so when you blow into the torch using LT, it covers the ground in purple, sleep-inducing fire. It's kind of similar to the sword, just the animation is slightly different. I don't meet the faith requirements to wield this weapon myself, but if you wanted to pick up Saint Trina's Torch, you can loot it from the caravan in the consecrated snowfields. So yeah, if you're having trouble against Godskin Noble or any of the Godskin enemies, use either Saint Trina's Sword or Saint Trina's Slinger's torch, and you can put them to sleep and whack them until they're dead.